Hello, thanks for listening to the Finance Leadership Podcast. This is the latest update and news about the Finance Leadership Programme produced by AICPA and CIMA, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. You can find out more at aicpa.org and also our combined site, which is aicpa-cima.com. As usual, you're listening to myself, Kevin Gormley, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Paul Parks, a colleague from the association. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Sure, absolutely. This is a topic that really excites me. So my name is Paul Parks. I'm a director in the Americas region of the Management Accounting Unit. I have a team of subject matter experts. We're part of the research and development team that's based in London. We develop thought leadership on behalf of AICPA and CIMA, learning content. We go out and speak to members routinely. And we all have backgrounds as CPAs, CGMAs, professional accountants. And my history is I worked for several years, for decades really, in business and industry, initially as a controller, eventually as a vice president of finance, a finance director, and CFO. I came to the AICPA a handful of years ago to now kind of have a whole different role, but it's based on the experience that I've built over a number of years.
So today we're here to leverage Paul's experience and know-how around the artificial intelligence space, and you would have to be hiding under a massive stone not to have heard the terms AI or generative AI or variations of AI in the media, in the world of finance and accounting, and generally across most aspects of society. So everyone's talking about it. So we're hoping today is to talk to Paul about what does it mean, in particular, what does it mean for business? What does it mean for us as consumers? And in particular, we're going to focus on generative AI. So, Paul, the first thing is to try and understand what we're dealing with here, what it means and what it is.
Sure. So artificial intelligence is just a kind of a broad background. It's actually been around for a long time. It's been around since the 1950s, where two researchers in England developed a computer program that could initially play checkers and eventually play chess. It refers to development of computer systems that perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. AI systems can adapt and improve their performance over time without explicit programming for each task. If you think about artificial intelligence, it's all around us. Think about robots in a automotive plant, self-driving cars, text editors, algorithmic investing, social media monitoring. But generative AI has really come on strong in the last a couple of years. And we're going to dig into that, and we're going to talk about use cases and so forth. But generative AI is a branch of AI that refers to computer systems that create new and original content, such as text, images, or music, without directly copying them from existing data. But when you do ask for it, it will give you references and sources that you can refer to dig a little bit deeper.
So, obviously, there's been an explosion of talk about this phenomenon and subject matter in recent years. So why is generative AI getting so much attention right now?
Yeah, it boils down to it's a game changer when you talk about productivity, okay? This affects really every profession, every industry at some level, and will continue to evolve. But this has come on very fast, okay? And generative AI has so many applications across multiple professions, whether it's the accounting and finance profession, software development, healthcare, law, legal, entertainment, customer service, from generating responses and chat bots and things of that nature. And a little bit later today, we'll talk about specifically the finance profession and accounting profession and how where there's opportunities to use it. But what's interesting is when OpenAI released ChatGPT 3.5 in late in 2022, early 2023, it really started getting attention. Like a lot of people, I signed up for a free account, and we'll talk about how to do that also for ChatGPT 3.5. I went and used it. 100 million people signed up for this about midway through 2023. We used it, but I didn't really understand it. It was neat. I didn't really kind of necessarily embrace it at that point in time. And that's what happened. 100 million users showed up, and just a small fraction of them initially started really trying to get their hands around this. I want to talk a little bit about the different platforms and so forth, but it wasn't until I got some training and saw some demos where my eyes just opened up in terms of the opportunity that's available here. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward.
Yeah, I think personally, I was one of those 100 million that went and registered for ChatGPT, installed it on my on phone, played with it about an hour, and then forgot about it. To be quite honest, so I'm guilty as charged in that regard. So I probably haven't fully understood its capabilities, because it's like any app. You get it, you install it, you play with it, and say, yeah, I could do that. That's neat, whatever it may be. But I've done nothing else. But I know there's loads of other platforms that are available, like internally within the association. We're piloting Microsoft's Copilot at the minute. But what other platforms are available?
Yeah, so I mean, your experience is the same as a lot. It's not until you kind of understand all the different platforms and then how to use them. So we'll talk about that. But when you talk about the platforms, ChatGPT, and GPT essentially stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Okay, it was issued by OpenAI. I used it, but I didn't have any training on it. I'd not seen any demos, and that was kind of what came a little bit later, which kind of opened my eyes. But there's ChatGPT, and there's integrations of ChatGPT. For example, Microsoft Copilot, which is built on ChatGPT 4. Okay, but there's other programs, including Alphabet/Google's Gemini, which has had some kind of fits and starts as it got started. It was originally called Bard, but it's now available and it's out there and is gaining some traction. Anthropic's Claude, which is another chat type language learning model where it does similar things, but it has its unique aspects. Amazon actually just invested a huge amount of money yesterday into working with Anthropic on this, just like Microsoft is working very closely with OpenAI and ChatGPT. There's Perplexity, there's U.com, and you could go to tool directories. There's tons of stuff out there. But what's interesting is with ChatGPT, and I want to kind of focus on that because that's the one I'm most familiar with, there are custom GPTs, okay? And so when you go to the account, you could see those on the OpenAI platform. And those combine instructions, extra knowledge, and all kinds of combinations of skills that are developed for very more specific tasks. And so, for example, I'm going to give you some examples of they have a trending analysis of what most people are using right now and the top 10 for each category. So the categories include, for example, writing. So there's a ChatGPT custom called Write For Me. It helps people write stories from scratch. There's productivity tool. One of the top ones is Canava, which is a presentation platform. So for example, like PowerPoint, you could do presentations, but I'm starting to use it and it's really, really neat and does a lot of things. But also Microsoft is eventually we're looking forward to getting that. We have the enterprise version of it, but we don't have, for example, the Copilot built into PowerPoint yet. I'm looking forward to that because I'm looking forward to building presentations using ChatGPT and PowerPoint at the same time. There's coding apps, one called Gormley. This is, you could write a website with a sentence. Okay. There's math tools, for example, in the education category. There are image generators. I developed a logo a week or so ago for a company using that. There's DALL-E, which is a image generator. I use it to produce images and illustrations and pictures for presentations I do. What's really interesting is you act with these by asking it questions, and it takes your instructions and very quickly gives you results. So that's kind of the platforms are out there. But also, one of the things to be aware of, this thing is evolving so fast, just like we now have the enterprise version of Copilot in our Microsoft 365 platform. If you work for a company, you need to kind of tune into your current technology providers and try to get a handle on where they are on developing integrations themselves, okay? Whether it be your ERP system or things like Microsoft, maybe your customer service system, they're going to all have versions of this kind of generative AI starting to be built in. And this stuff is coming very quickly. We're on the front edge of it, and there's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds.
So there's a lot to absorb in that, obviously. But if I'm a complete novice, say, just scenario, I'm a student, I'm currently studying for my CGMA, and obviously elements of this are within our syllabus already, and there's lots of CPD and learning out there. Where would you start kicking off a journey to really understand and get involved with the whole AI space?
So I'll give you my journey. And so I opened up that ChatGPT 3.5 account just like Kevin did. I didn't really use it. And then I went to a conference and saw a 1-hour presentation that was a demonstration on how this individual was using it in his consulting and practice. And it blew me away. Okay. And so what they did, in one case, he took, for example, a Form 10K, which is an annual report filed with the SEC for Microsoft. Okay. He uploaded it into ChatGPT 4.0, which actually is much better at doing data analysis than ChatGPT 3.5. And what it was able to do is it read that report within probably 40 seconds. Okay. Then he started asking questions, and he asked it to do financial metrics on the balance sheet, income statement, and so forth. And you could actually see, based on his instructions, where ChatGPT was doing coding behind the scenes and creating these finance metrics from the balance sheets of Microsoft. I took that and did the same thing. I got a ChatGPT 4.0 account. That costs $20 a month. 3.5 is free. And now I use it in Copilot also, and did the same thing. And I started playing with it. So what I learned, a key to this thing is about what's called prompt engineering, is getting very good at asking very specific prompts. And one of the things that you always want to do is give it a persona. And so the persona, if you wanted to analyze a set of financial statements, is say, act like an experienced financial analyst and provide me highlights, for example, from the management discussion and analysis section of the Form 10K. Please put it in a bullet point format and limit it to 350 words. Within a minute, it'll give you that analysis. And then you can start asking follow-up questions. Say, that bullet point 3 about Amazon Web Services, could you expand your analysis of that? You're talking to it, and it's giving you all kinds of information. I started playing with it, and I all of a sudden realized how powerful this tool is. And I'll give you some more use cases in a minute. But the whole key to it is get some initial training. Okay. And one of the things, even when you're playing with ChatGPT 3.5, be very careful, because you have to protect that there's not great data privacy type security to this. You don't want to give it personal information. You don't want to give it client information. You don't want to give it something you wouldn't want out on the internet. But when I use Copilot, the enterprise version of it, it has more data protection. So it's a little bit different analysis. But the whole key to it is get that training. We have webcasts that we've done. There's some in production as we speak. There's AI self-study courses that we have and are being developed and updated. Take those, but go to YouTube and just Google, say, please show me demos of how accountants use ChatGPT 4.0. And there's tons of YouTubes out there. I took a LinkedIn Live learning course that showed additional demos, okay? And I started to realize, okay, it's really important to do the prompts right. Here's all the things it could do. And I started building that knowledge, but a lot of it came from just using it, okay? The webcasts I took were just a handful of hours, and I was off to the races for it. There's a lot to learn, but you could get started very fast on it.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you can almost have a conversation with it and delve deeper and deeper into granular aspects of a piece of information is extremely powerful. I mean, that's awesome. I have to say that the way you've described how you've delved down into the elements of the analysis of financial statements, for example, So obviously, listeners to the podcast might say, "Yeah, this all sounds fantastic," but what sort of use cases and practical uses of ChatGPT would you see right now for the average user?
So I'll give you an example. I was doing my tax return last week. I had specific questions regarding this is state and local tax in the United States about non-resident taxation. So I started asking it questions. I had some questions about health savings accounts that we have that have certain tax implications. I uploaded the IRS publication, had it read it, and the prompt was act like an experienced CPA. This is a U.S. tax question that specializes in personal income taxation. And I started asking it questions and started giving me answers. Right, that's one example that's very straightforward. I've asked it questions about very specific things on applying an accounting standard. In one case, it related to a lease. This is something I had done in the past. I knew the answer, but I was testing it to see if it gave me the right answer. And that's a key point to this. This thing's not perfect. It will make mistakes, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that. And I wish we had, this is some of the things you'll learn in your learning. You have to ask it the question right, but you also have to be an accountant. An accountant is really good at saying, are you sure about that, for example, right? In other words, kind of critique and verify the answers that you're getting, okay? And so I'll give you an example where a law firm had applied a brief to a judge, and the judge's staff over the weekend read it, and it referred to some court cases, okay? Well, the court cases, they just used ChatGPT, but they didn't verify the cases it presented to the judge. Well, they didn't even exist. They it was an amalgamation of things, and so you have to be very careful when you use it. But those are a couple examples. Let me give you a couple more. One of the things our team does is developing learning content, and so we were working on a course for advanced skills for CFOs. Okay, so I use it to develop learning outlines. I tell the persona is act like a CFO who has 20 years experience, but you're now developing learning courses for CPAs and CGMAs. Develop me an outline for a course, and I give it very specific instructions of what I want. I want information technology topics, strategic management accounting. You could omit the financial accounting reporting and standards from this particular course, and it would help me with it. It would give me a template. I've asked it to develop a capitalization policy, okay, which I've done in the past. It gave me a template, which was really, really good, okay? So there's a million ways you could use it. We do a lot of research. We'll upload a report, for example, from McKinsey and Company when we do research on topics, and we'll ask it to give us a briefing on it. And you could say, please use bullets, give me your analysis, keep it to 350 words. And then we start interacting with that report as opposed to reading the whole report. But then it also kind of helps us go to the parts of the report we want to learn more about.
Okay, so the next big question everyone asks about AI, from my experience, Paul, has been, is this going to kill us? There's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of paranoia. And from what I see, there's lots of journalists in particular in the media that would talk about AI as the worst thing to ever arrived since nuclear weapons. I'll be quite honest, and I don't see it. That matter clearly, any technology comes with responsibility and risk. There's no question about that. But from an accounting perspective, or from businesses in general, what risks do you see, and what ethical considerations are important?
Yeah, so there's lots of risk, and you just need to understand it. We talked a little bit about data privacy and security. Again, this will come from your training. Accuracy and trust, we talked about that you need to, even challenge this program. And remember, think of this program as your assistant, okay? You could give it any persona you want, and you could talk to it like you would an assistant that's helping you, okay? And then when they give you the results, you can start to ask follow-up questions and things of that nature. But part of it is making sure that what it's giving you makes sense and you're verifying it, those kind of things. It's prone sometimes to hallucinations. So if it can't find the answer, it'll try to come up with an answer that maybe this is kind of off the map. The program's getting better at that, but it's not perfect. But other risks are things like deep fakes. We're in a big political presidential election year, and there's concerns about deep fakes of people saying things about one of the candidates that are just completely created out of nowhere, right? And you have to be wary about biases and fairness. The internet has bias in it, and it's using the internet to get a lot of this information. And so you need to make sure that you're a critical thinker. You think about, well, wait a minute, is this the whole story? And you start asking follow-up questions and things of that nature. There's risk with intellectual property and ownership, and then even attribution risk. You need to make sure if we're developing a thought leadership report, and we've used this, that if there's attribution that we need to give from some of the sources we cite, that we do it in a robust fashion. But the existential risks are clear, right? And this is a powerful tool. It's got a long way to go before it's going to create some of these issues that people are concerned about. But quite frankly, the Center for AI Safety came out a year or so ago, a little over a year ago, said that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside with societal scale risks, such as pandemics, nuclear war, and so forth. The statement was signed by very prominent individuals, and that's why there's going to be regulatory involvement in these kind of things. But you also, we need to make sure we use it for good. And the risk is it gets into the, hands of bad actors, but it doesn't have there's a whole huge discussion about this, and we have to be aware of that. But the main thing, when you use it, it is a robust productivity tool, but you need to understand what its limitations are. And you need to, just like accountants do, always challenge where it's getting the information, the biases. It usually gives you a great start on things when you talk about use cases, but you also then have to use your own intellect to kind of make sure that you're getting to the right answer.
You never can really do without the human instincts of, as you say, critical thinking, a certain degree of cynicism, and questioning everything. I do that every day, and everyone asks me why I ask so many questions. It's because of everything you've said, the deep fakes, the false information, the bad actors, and the internet. We all know the internet is full of information. It's completely void and wrong. So, it's a powerful tool, but obviously used in the right way can bring a lot of good. My final question is around how the use of AI could be used to shape a career. So in the last podcast, we talked about ESG and how that could be a force to shape a career in accounting with a particular niche. Is this the same from your viewpoint? Could I be an accountant to be an AI specialist, or what sort of career path do you see from anyone who has the right skills in this space?
Yeah. So I've worked with a lot of accountants. I came out of the university and got a CPA initially, and then eventually the CGMA. Being a finance professional and accountant opens the world for a ton of different professions. And also within your own profession, a ton of different specialties and so forth. And you'll find your way. But what's clear about being a good accountant, you have superpowers, okay? You've been trained in a very broad fashion on finance and accounting skills. But what you're also trained on is being objective, being rigorous in your analysis, okay? When you start your career, you're starting out on the technical side and developing reports and so forth. Eventually, you want to build commercial awareness and influencing and leadership skills. The nature of this tool is going to affect every profession. And I'll give you a homework assignment. Go ask ChatGPT how AI will affect the accounting profession. And you could ask that in any way you want to, and it'll give you some really good insight. But I live in a university town. I get that kind of question a lot. There's always a room for insight. If you go to a doctor, you don't want ChatGPT giving you a diagnosis unless a doctor is vetting it and so forth. It's just a tool, okay? This is a tool to make you more productive. But it won't replace accountants. But accountants who embrace generative AI and AI in general, and any digital skill, will replace accountants who don't. And so that's a key to it. But when I asked this question, it gave me a bunch of answers, from things like automating routine tasks, improved accuracy. This is about the accounting profession, regulatory and ethical considerations, job displacement and transformation. Yes, it's going to replace some routine type tasks, but that's a good thing if you embrace it, because it now gives us the power to look forward as opposed to looking back and working with the business and helping the business to come up with answers to the questions. But I love the way it summarized everything it said. And I'm going to read it to you. In summary, AI is poised to transform the accounting profession by automating routine tasks, enhancing analytical capabilities, and shifting the focus towards more strategic and advisory roles. Accountants who embrace these changes and adapt by acquiring new skills will be well positioned to thrive in this evolving landscape. Okay, so that I think is as true of a statement as there is. If you, as an accountant, want to specialize in a digital area or with digital technology, my experience is those that are good at both digital and IT skills and accountants do really well in life. But this is a digital skill that we all need to have digital literacy for. And this is one I think we need to lean into and embrace because it's going to evolve very rapidly. You want to be at the front end of that, which you will be if you start kind of taking it on. Got a lot of learning to do, but it's a powerful tool that's going to transform a lot of professions. We don't know how significant it's going to be, but you have to lean into it and ride with it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, really, this tool is an aid. It's not a decision maker as such. It's just going to help you do your job faster and better if used correctly. Great. Paul, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and share your knowledge in this space.
Sure.
There's plenty more to explore about the topic. So what we'll include is some show notes and links as well on key resources that will be useful for our listeners. And so to view the show notes, just click on the episode's info icon on the podcast app or on your smartphone or tablet, or open the episode in your computer's web browser. You'll find everything right there. For more information on the Finance Leadership Programme, go to enroll.cgma.org. Thanks for listening. If you know a friend or colleague who could use this information, and share the podcast, you'll see the sharing buttons on the podcast app. That's it for now. We should have another podcast next month. Goodbye.
This content is designed to provide illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the AICPA, the Association, or CIMA. It is provided with the understanding that they are not engaged in offering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If such advice or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. The AICPA, the Association, and CIMA make no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to, and assume no responsibility for, the content or application of the material contained herein, and especially disclaim all liability for any damages arising out of the use of, reference to, or reliance on such material.